AGAccountability.com.
So this is his first time to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He fell in love with Texas.
Really?
So, he was asking questions. He wants to get a gun. He's married, and like, what do I get? And and I said, before you get anything, you need to know what your needs are. Well, my budget. I said, don't care about budget.
Yeah.
I said, you don't go buy a $1,500 pistol to carry on you.
Yeah, just because you can.
Just because you can.
Yeah.
I said, figure out what your needs are, where you're really going to take it, where you're really going to carry it, and can your wife use it?
Yeah.
Because what's good for you may not be good for her.
Right.
That's why it's Texas. You need multiples. And, of course, he laughed because I said, well, it's just like this. And because I got one right here on a magnet. And I said it. He's like, I didn't know that was there. I said, and I didn't do it on camera. I said, nobody knows it's there.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you just have to know what you know. And as of right now, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
So get with an instructor and figure out what your needs are. You don't need a 40. You don't need you don't need to go buy a 50 cal,
No. Dude, I don't carry anything but 9mm.
That's all I carry.
I don't carry no 40s, no 45. I don't need any of that bullshit.
And it's nice with one ammo.
Yeah.
I don't have to. I have a couple 32s. No. No, I got rid of my 32s, and that's a 9. That's a DB9. Holds 7.
Is that the Ruger?
No, it's Diamondback.
Okay.
But I love it. I got it. I picked it up for $200.
Oh yeah, you can't beat that.
You can't pass a gun up to where if it falls, I drop it. It slides across concrete, or if it gets stolen,
who cares?
I'm out $200.
Yeah.
And it's not registered to me.
Dude, I tell you what, one of the best guns I've ever bought, and I just bought it about a year ago, just for the price. Stoger shotguns.
Yes.
Okay. They make pistols now.
Do they really?
They're basically a clone of a Glock, essentially. $300, 9mm full size, shoots like a dream. $300. Because I used to carry, I had a $1,500 SIG Legion in my truck. Then I sold the Legion. I bought a Glock 19, had a whole lot of custom work done to it. I probably got $1,000, $1,100 in that Glock. I've got that in my truck now, but used to carry that in my truck, and I'm like, screw that. If this thing gets stolen, it's $300.
$300.
Dude, it's nice, man. I mean, $300, and it's a. I'll send it to you. STR9, Stoger STR9, dude. Awesome.
Great guns.
Great gun, dude. Shoot the shit out of it, man. Drive tacks with it.
I bought a couple Canics.
Oh yeah, they're good too.
Love them.
Yeah.
But then I have another subcompact Taurus.
Yeah.
And the only reason I got that Taurus, well, the guy was wanting to. Like $175. It's like a $400 gun. I'm like, deal.
Yeah.
I don't even want to see it. I'll buy it.
Yeah.
Bring it in. But the great thing about that gun is the composite they use on it. You cannot scratch that gun.
Really?
I mean, I treat that gun horribly. Now I have to clean it all the time because, that's the thing about some of the cheaper guns. You're going to have to clean. If it sits in your glove box, it's going to get gum and build up.
Oh yeah.
People, well, I got a gun in my car. When was the last time you cleaned the dang thing?
Dude, I've pulled guns out of women's purses before, and it is disgusting. It's like crumbs and all. I'm like, I don't even know if this thing is going to shoot.
Yeah.
It's disgusting, man.
And a gun does not ensure safety.
No, it doesn't, man.
And it can give you a false sense of security.
Yeah.
What is that rule of 21 feet?
Yeah.
21 feet. You can have it on you and holstered, and the majority of people, if somebody's within 21, 22 feet of you, they are going to get to you.
Yeah. You're going to close that gap. We had this conversation on our podcast a while back, and I was critical of the officers in Mesquite, Texas. There was a kid who he brought a gun to school, was having a mental health crisis, goes to the counselor, and then he tells him that he has a gun on him. It's a .38 revolver, and the officers show up, and administrator's in the same room with the kid. They've got him under control. He's calm.
And he has the gun on person?
It's on the floor.
Oh.
He's sitting here. It's at his feet. So he's sitting on a couch. Doors right here to the right. Cops are maybe 10 feet away, 12 feet away. That's me. 10 to 12 feet away. And administrator's got it under control. And so the cops get there, the administrator steps out, and, they're trying to convince the kid to come out of the room. Well, he's not being compliant. And you can see this escalation, right, of what's going on here. Now, they're thinking that he's just going to comply because they have 3 guns pointed at him, though he's not holding the weapon. And when he starts not complying with them, they start ramping up. Listen, Monday morning quarterback, I know, is what it is. I'm just giving you my perspective. I believe that they escalated that situation where they didn't need to escalate it. I also feel like there's this training block amongst law enforcement that they don't feel like they can close the gap on an individual in that particular situation. Now, I would never say, hey, let's close the gap on this guy if he's holding the gun in his hand. Because you're right, it takes a split second. He turns, boom, and he shoots. He gets a shot off at him. And at that point, if he's holding the gun in his hand and he's not compliant, and he makes an assertive movement, then he has the ability to, or they have the ability to use lethal force. But in this particular situation, they start escalating the case so much, or the scenario so much, that the kid does make the assertive movement, grabs the gun, turns toward them. They fire 19 shots. None of them hit the kid. This close of a range, right? So what I'm telling school districts that are arming teachers is that that's the perfect scenario of why you should really think long and hard before you go just, doing that. These are 3 trained individual professional law enforcement officers. They have a 15-foot gap between them and a kid with a .38 revolver. They shoot 19 times. None of them hit him.
Wow.
None. Right? And so what my takeaway was, and what I said on our podcast, was that before he had the weapon at his feet, why not? They're talking to him, right? He's talking to them. Why not keep your weapon at the low ready and just close the distance, close the gap? You can do it with speed and violence of action, or in that scenario, the kid's in this mindset, the weapon's at his foot. There's no reason to even suspect that he's going to turn with that gun. He's not showing any signs of that. You're talking to him. He's talking to you fine. He's not complying with you, but at that point, just lower, low ready, keep your weapon up in case you need to put rounds on target, but just close that gap real quick, right? I truly believe that they could have closed that gap. Even if it was one officer, it was all 3 officers, I believe that they could have closed the gap, got on top of him, and done what they needed to do before he had time to reach down, grab the gun, stand up. They gave him so much time. They escalated the situation where he did have time to reach for that gun. When he reached for the gun, why didn't they start firing at that point? They got the gun. He starts go towards them. So, I don't know, man. It's, like I said, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback. I just, believe that we've got to do better in law enforcement. I'm not being critical, but I am being critical. Some of these things, can be resolved through de-escalation. Some people just deserve to be shot. Their actions dictate what happens to them. And I'm not saying that they, like I said, I'm not saying that they don't deserve it. Some people just deserve it,
The Oliver North, when was Sandy Hook? 2012?
Sandy Hook was 2013, I believe.
13?
2012,
Okay.
2013.
Oliver North caught a lot of hate for this, but it's Oliver North.
Yeah.
He said, look, guys, why are y'all acting shocked? This is just a playbook of what to come.
Mm-hmm.
And now he looks like a prophet, because he said this isn't just going to be put into schools. You're going to start seeing this in everyday
Communities,
places.
yeah.
When it does come to kids, parents, put your guns up.
Yeah.
You can say, well, my kid's never shown a sign. Look at one of the shootings that stands out, Columbine High School.
Mm-hmm.
Those parents had no freaking clue. Those kids never showed a sign at all. Keep your guns put up. My daughter's been raised around guns. She respects them. She knows how to operate them. She knows how to respect them, and she knows not to touch them. I still keep them put up. We have to understand as a society in whole, not, well, I don't have kids or my kids are older, a whole. It has to be all of us. There is truly a mental health lack of the value of human life. People say, well, it's desensitizing to video games, to music, the music culture, to the movie culture, whatever it is. It's going to take us collectively as a whole to really come together and say, how in the heck do we stop or prevent this happening? It starts in the home.
I agree with that. If you look in Michigan right now, the Oxford shooting, Crumbly, the parents just got sentenced yesterday to 10 to 15 years. That's the first of its kind in the nation where the parents were held accountable.
Maximum.
Yeah, and they should be. It's like Santa Fe, right? Those parents made that weapon accessible to that child. Adam Lanza, in Sandy Hook, his mother was unfortunately killed, but she made that weapon accessible to him. As a Second Amendment advocate, it's our duty and our responsibility to be responsible with our weapons and our firearms. So, I've got no problem with making it a felony for parents who or weapon owners that make their weapons accessible to a child or to anybody who commits a murder with it or a crime with it. Why we have, again, politics dividing us, the Republican Party fighting against, making it a felony for someone to make a weapon accessible to someone who commits a murder or a crime with it is beyond me. Our Republican Party is so hell-bent on defending our Second Amendment. Well, you can still defend the Second Amendment. We're not taking away anyone's rights. We're making them responsible individuals, to uphold that right, to own that weapon. There comes a responsibility with owning a weapon. I've made mistakes with weapons. It can happen to the best of us. It's political divisiveness, again, interfering. And like I said earlier, we talk about, do we have a mental health crisis or a weapon, a firearm issue in the United States? We have both. We absolutely have both. Take Uvalde. Kid had multiple signs, symptoms of mental health, kid in crisis. I say this all the time, is that the day before he carried out that unfortunate, tragic incident, he was a kid in crisis in America. The day that it happened, he was America's monster. Listen, we have to put blame where blame is due, and that's on him, right? But at the end of the day, those in his life that were close to him, those people who knew him, maybe not, a friend or an acquaintance, who saw this unusual pattern of behavior, shame on them for not reporting it, right?
Absolutely.
That could have meant the difference in 21 innocent souls being taken that day.
And I think it's hard to register with people to be cognizant of anything around them, not just in this scenario, but when you are a law-abiding good person, it doesn't enter your mindset to ever think that would happen, because you would never do that to somebody, or you would never act that way. So you don't become cognizant of things really going on around you, because you think, well, that could never happen, because why would anybody ever do that? It does happen. Unfortunately, there are bad people.
It does, man.
There are sick people. There are people that, and a lot of this Columbine went back to bullying. Yeah. Guys who were completely bullied their whole school career.
Because they were different.
And I'm not saying that's okay.
No, it's not okay.
It's not okay. But it has to start in the home. And if parents, if you can't get through to your kid, you need to find somebody who can. Mm-hmm. And if they can't, then they have the proper channels to say, hey, we have a red flag. There's an issue here.
Well, the problem is that
then there's the stigma. You have the weird kid. Your kid is,
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? We have some very good parents that live amongst us, friends, family, people we don't know. There's some good parents. I just truly believe that parents are not as involved as they used to be. And that's seen in our schools. It's seen in, multiple facets of our society. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier, is that too often schools are now expected to teach kids the things that they need to be learning at home. Like you said earlier, it's the school's job to reinforce that. It's not their job to lay the foundation. And I know that there's some extenuating circumstances where a lot of kids don't have someone or have, a family to do that. And, therefore other people have to step up. But, I've said this time and time again, it takes a village to raise a kid. We've said that. It's decades old saying. There's no truer statement than right now. Where is our village? Where? I felt the village when I was a kid in the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s. I don't feel that village now. And the village has gotten to where if another grown adult corrects your child for doing something inappropriate, you want to fight that person. Why?
This happened in Barbers Hill this past week. Young lady, unfortunately, took some pictures, sent them to a boy because he swore he wouldn't show anybody. Do you think he didn't show anybody?
He showed everybody.
Everybody.
His whole baseball team.
And they made it onto TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So my daughter was telling me about this. And I said, well, what's going on? She said, well, she's probably going to switch schools. And I said, they better not make her switch schools.
Yeah.
As a parent, make your kid go to school and face what they did. You made a mistake. You're not going to run from your mistakes.
Yeah.
You're going to take ownership of it. And you made a mistake. And it was a great teaching moment for me because I'm like, baby, I'm just going to tell you. You're going to get older and you're going to fall in love with some boy. And times have changed. Things weren't like that when I was your age. And, hey, send me a picture of you and your brawler, and you think, oh, he loves me. He may love you now, but 2 weeks later, if y'all have a falling out, well, I got these pictures.
Yep.
So don't fall into that trap. But we've made consequences. And oddly enough, when you said that, the parents, thinking the parents would be remorseful, showed up to his house and tried to fight the mom and dad. And the police had to get involved. And it's like, what message are you sending through to your kids? Hey, do wrong, and I'll go justify your wrong.
Well, the thing is, so I have a buddy over there at Barbers Hill. His daughter, she's 7th or 8th grade. And he called me a while back, and he said, hey, man, I got an issue. He goes, a group of boys took a bunch of our girls' photos off of Facebook or whatever, and they've added them or put them into this AI-generated platform that it's pornography.
Oh, God.
But it's our daughter's faces on these things. And so we've caused a stink about it at the school, and the school's basically saying that, we're going to move the girls out of these classes. I said, bullshit.
Why are you going to interrupt their life?
I said, no, you do not allow that. The girls did nothing wrong. They're victims. Their life should not be turned upside down and be forced to go to another class and readjust when they did nothing wrong. I said, absolutely not.
That sends a horrible message.
That's what I said. I said, where's the punishment for the boys? Well, they're going to be punished, and there's still some debate on whether they're going to be charged. I said, it is a law violation in the state of Texas to do that. I said, you better make sure that they're charged. And we talked about the criminalization of kids and the school to prison pipeline. I truly believe that there is a school to prison pipeline. And I would tell you, I do think that we are criminalizing kids. But in this particular case, I mean, you've taken the innocence away from some of these 7th, 8th grade girls.
That's horrific.
There has to be consequences to that. These are things that are going to follow them around or could potentially follow them around for a very long time. So there has to be consequences. I'm not saying we need to go, arresting all these kids. That's not what I'm saying. And the good news is that the juvenile justice system is meant to rehabilitate, right? And so, they'll go through some hardships for a little while, but at the end of the day, these girls should not be the ones that are forced to move classes. right? There should be no interference of those girls. And I told him, you know, and I'm not going to say his name, but I said, you better stand firm on this. And I said, because if not, you're setting a horrible precedent. You know, I said, and your daughter and these other girls' daughters are watching their dads. They're watching you. And you got to get this right. And so I think they had it. They think they got it resolved. But, you know, it's, you know, parents, you know, being a former school board member, we need more parental involvement, man.
Look at what happened yesterday. Parents, get involved in your kids. No, there's some great apps out there you can put on your kid's phone. Anytime a text message is got or sent or received, it goes to your phone. Now, you don't have to go through and read. You can skim through and just
bark and all kind of stuff.
But think about what just happened on the national news and our local news. The teacher recruiting a sex ring inside her high school, and she was choosing students that she could manipulate and leading them into prostitution.
Hey, I didn't hear this one.
It was on the news yesterday and the national news. A school right here in Houston.
Really?
And you don't want to say, like, well, where are the parents? Because whoever would think that would happen. This is a different day and age we live in.
Oh, yeah.
So involvement goes a long ways. There's a difference between involvement and helicoptering.
Yeah, there is.
Big difference. Like my daughter knows, I go through her phone. Doesn't mean she can't delete.
How old is she?
13.
Yeah.
Now she doesn't get it all the time. Matter of fact, I need to text her mom because Mom said I can bring my phone. And I let her, and then I got to thinking, and guess what? If she lied to me, Rachel, take her phone, and she's not going to get it back. You lied to me.
Well, you know, the problem is that parents, a lot of parents, not all, parents don't follow up with the consequences, right? Or they let up on the consequences. And, you know, rightfully, I've been that guy. You know, my wife she's hardcore, man. You know, I'm a little bit more forgiving. But I know parents, I've got some within my family. I love them to death, but I mean, they set a consequence and then they just completely backtrack on that consequence within a matter of hours, you know, or just days. And it's like, wait a minute, what are you teaching them? You know, you're not teaching them that there are consequences to your actions and that we have to follow through with these things because, you know, if you don't follow through with it, they're going to manipulate the hell out of you. They're kids. I would have done the same thing.
Absolutely.
We all would have done the same thing.
I never lied to mine.
No, that's bullshit. We know better, you know. And I didn't either. I was an angel, but yeah, not even close. But you know, our society has just fallen so far back on, you know, the moral compass. Parents are just not as involved with the day to day. You know, it's like you know, parents coming. I remember being on school board. Parents coming in and complaining about their kids' grades, and it's like, you know, week 5 of a 6-week you know, semester, and it's like you're just now realizing your kid's failing, you know, a week before, and then you want us to jump through hoops to try to rectify this situation.
Yeah, in the school
you know?
Now they send out updates.
Hell, you can log in every day.
Yeah,
if you want. They make it easy. You know, it's incumbent upon you to be active.
The days of us hiding our paper report card.
Dude,
well, I didn't get mine.
Yeah, I didn't get it. They failed. They didn't mail it. Yeah, parents can log in every single day and follow. I mean, down to the assignment. You know, so there's really no excuse to say that you didn't know. You know, like we talked about earlier, like code of conduct stuff. Read that shit. Because if you don't read it and you just sign it, you've got no reasonable articulation to defend, right? Read it. Read all of it. You know, and if you don't agree with it, don't sign it. You don't have to sign it.
I've said this so many times before. In, you know, 17 years of being a youth pastor, I learned a lot of what to do, and I learned a lot of what not to do. Parents, if you're dealing in a difficult time with your kids, instead of looking at your kid as the problem, step back and realize, do I allow my child to talk? If you never allow your child to talk, you're raising a listener and a good liar. Mm-hmm. You're raising somebody that's never allowed to give their opinion. So if they're just a listener, they just sit there and they've already zoned and tuned you out. But if you allow open lines, even if they're wrong, let them talk. Let them talk. You be the authority of power. Let them talk.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, I heard what you have to say. X, Y, Z, this is why. But if you're raising just a listener, you're raising a good liar. They're going to say, yes, sir, and go out and do whatever the heck they want to do.
Right. I love the conversations that I have with my kids. You know, my wife and I have never, you know, we lived in, you know, Texas, and then, Maryland, Las Vegas, back to Texas. You know, my kids have seen a lot and they've traveled a lot and they've experienced different cultures and they've had to fit in, being the new kid multiple times. And we've always been just very open and honest with our kid. I mean, even talking about, you know, things that most people kind of shy away from, you know, sex, religion, you know, sexual orientation. I mean, we talk about all the controversial things. You know why? Because I want them to learn it from me, from a good moral foundation, so that they don't turn.
Sex is going to come to 100% of the people on the face of the earth.
Absolutely. But, you know, the thing is, I don't want them to learn it from one of their friends' parents or someone else who may not believe the way that we believe, that understand that there needs to be a good moral foundation.
Or get their information off TikTok.
Yeah, or from, you know, the internet, right? Porn or whatever, right? What's acceptable, what's not acceptable. So we have a very open and honest conversation. And I tell you, there's a lot of times that we have conversations with our kids and you know, I'm just shocked at some of the things that some of their friends are engaging in. You know, my kids are not angels by any means. I've got a 19-year-old and I've got about to be an 18-year-old. But I think they have a very good moral compass. And I think it's because we have allowed them to have that voice. We've allowed them to have an opinion, even though at the end of the day, we still make the rules. We've given them the freedom to be able to speak and voice their concerns, or, you know, have that platform. Like I said, at the end of the day, we still enforce the rules. But I love the conversations that I have with my kids because they're open, they're honest. We talk about all the things that other parents maybe would shy away from, right? In fact, a lot of the times they shock me with some of the things that they say, not because I don't think that they're intelligent. It's just I didn't realize that they were at that level of maturity, you know. And you know, it makes me proud, quite frankly. And it makes me realize that maybe I didn't do too bad of a job because, you know, I think at every point in a parent's life, we question, am I doing an okay job?
Yeah.
You know, and I think we've done a pretty good job with our kids, man. Listen, we're not perfect. You know, I'm not perfect. My wife's not perfect.
And have those questions, Mike. Am I doing? Get some resources.
Yeah.
Bounce off people that you see that do have successful relationships with their kids. Do whatever it takes to get through to your kids. If that means you going to get some counseling, you getting on the internet and taking an internet class on new lingo, signs to look for, be resourceful. Don't sit back and wait for the problem to arise.
And don't sit back and think that you have all the answers, you know. And what I mean by that is, like, diversify your kids' exposure. You know, one of the things that I love is that you know, we talked about my uncle earlier, who's gay, or my two uncles that are gay, and they've been in a relationship for 40 years. My uncle was down from South Carolina here a while back, a couple weeks ago, and you know, we sat with our kids and had, I mean, it was just basically just conversation about everything: politics, sexual orientation, you know, you name it. But my kids felt free to have conversations with him about his sexual orientation and get his perspective. You know, I think a lot of the times where we make mistakes as parents or even as adults or Americans is that we don't want to engage in conversation with people that we don't agree with. Everything appears to have to be a conflict instead of an enlightening moment. Right? We need to be able to engage with those that we don't agree with just to understand their perspective. Nobody said at the end of that conversation you have to walk away agreeing.
Yeah.
You could still disagree, you know. But I think that diversity in conversation is what makes a strong adult. And so that's the, you know, advice that I would give to parents is, you know, if your kids have questions about homosexuality or you know, you name it, anything that maybe you don't have all the answers, and it's okay to not have the answers. Don't be afraid to engage someone who can answer them, right? Now, obviously monitor that, right? Because, I mean, we don't want, you know, someone with an opposing view having this lasting impression on your kid that we don't morally agree with. But at least don't be afraid to engage the opposing ideology so that you can be more diverse in your thinking. That is where I think that we need to start focusing as a country, is understanding we're different, man. Like, let's get different opinions, right?
All of us are different, and
Yeah.
all of us think our opinions are right.
Yeah, no, I've never said I'm 100% right.
My thoughts and my opinions are right for my household.
Yeah.
In the areas I'm wrong in, I was wrong, and I reevaluate and I recalculate, and I come back and say I was wrong.
I've had to say I'm wrong I don't know how many times, and that's okay. That's how I was raised, was on those principles that, you stand by your family, your friends, those that reciprocate the love that you show them. You tell them when they're right, tell them when they're wrong, not in a derogatory or demeaning way. And you stand on your principles. And if standing on your principles, you later realize that you were wrong, say you were wrong and move on, and be willing to accept someone's apology. I know people that I would never accept their apology. Why? It doesn't heal you.
No, you just carry that.
You just carry that burden, man.
Yes, you do.
And that will eat you. Accept their apology. Now, there's some people that in my life that I'm not ready to accept their apology.
I have probably said this 10,000 times. Forgiving somebody isn't reconciliation.
No.
That means, hey, I forgive you. Now you can say it from over there. And if we're reconciled, then you'll be back in part of my life. But I can forgive you and not be reconciled.
Yeah. I mean, I've got people in my life that I have helped, and they didn't necessarily agree with maybe decisions that I had made. And so therefore I'm the bad guy, but they failed to understand that my intentions were always pure. And that I'd made decisions based upon what I felt was appropriate at the time. Do I look back at some of the decisions that I made with some of these individuals, and there's multiple, could I see why they would be upset? Yep, I can. I can absolutely see why they'd be upset. I still stand firm on the decisions that I made. But at the end of the day, there's just some people that I'm not willing to forgive yet.
Yeah.
And like you said, reconciliation doesn't mean, that you've forgotten.
Yeah.
Right. I wish these people nothing but the best. That's fine. I truly do. Like, I hope that they succeed in everything that they do. It's just, we don't have to be friends or even family anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, people need to understand that, yes, your family is your family, but at the end of the day, like, you don't have to be, forever connected to them because you share the same bloodline.
Sometimes you have to know when to walk away from detrimental things, people, and situations. If you don't, you live in frustration.
Yeah, and that's not good for anybody. There's no growth there.
None. And you can't help your kids. You can't help yourself, your family.
Right.
Mike, I appreciate you being out here, man. I've really enjoyed this. I got to do the whole left hand thing.
Yeah, it's all good. Man.
I feel like a little sissy handshake
right.
doing that. But man, loved having you here. Look forward to having you back. And
I'm ready.
This was a blast, man.
All right, man.